Let's see. I'm gonna stop sharing. And I can go through the chat.
Here, I've been going through and answering, Sarah. We have a question. This is good. Mitch is here. It says, hello, we have some kids on our team who are wondering if it is legal to have attachments with motors and or sensors built into them. The rule says 4 motors max, but does that just mean motors on the robot and at any given time, or can they have 4 motors, only have 4 motors total? So I think that's a
That would
Mitch
be,
question.
yep, that's 4 motors total.
All right. Did that answer your question, Brad? I guess he also wanted to know if he could have motors on his attachments, Mitch,
You can, yes.
as long as you don't have any more than 4 total, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Qualcomm codes will be sent out tomorrow. It is going to be your responsibility not to lose said code, but I will send them out tomorrow. What should be ready? What should be ready? What should be ready by qualifying round? So is that for your, do you mean by your first tournament? You should
Yes,
have.
For the qualifying round, I'm just wondering if we are going to do only the missions or also the innovation project will also be considered.
Yeah, so you're all so it's an official tournament. So you want to have your project, you want to have your robot design stuff ready to present to the judges. You want to have your robot ready to perform the best you can at the robot table. And you want to have everybody bring their core values to your qualifying tournament because you are judged throughout the event on that.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yep. Is cross-team collaboration okay? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We like collaboration and we love to hear about how teams, collaborate together. For the Ocean X Live, is that for students?
I believe so.
Okay. Top 60% per location, not top 60% of entire SoCal area advancing. It's the top 60% of the number of teams from your event. So each event, regardless, will have 60%. If you have 10 teams, 12, minimum 12 at an event, you'll have 6%. If you have an event that has 24 teams, 60% of the 24 will advance. Can we use materials other than Lego pieces in our innovation project? You can. You can. You just cannot use anything other than Lego pieces on your robot. But your innovation project, yes, you can be creative with it. Can we use jigs in our home area? Yes.
Yes, you can. They need to be made of Lego, though.
Yes.
Good point.
Yes. Should we plan to register for an early QT? If we are registered for an event on the 9th or 10th and it gets canceled, what does that do for the team?
I wouldn't worry about that. If it got canceled, you'd try to move you to one on that day, and there are certain similar ones in that area, but we would know way ahead of time, so we'll let you know.
And we have a meeting this weekend to confirm with our tournament directors, so that shouldn't happen. So we should be okay.
We should be.
Yeah, we should. Qualcomm codes are only for those teams who got Qualcomm funding from us, not from Qualcomm themselves. You will have had Qualcomm funding from us. We have that list. We will be sending out to you guys. Here's another question for Mitch. For the mission 1, there was an update to the position on the coral tree. The coral tree is in whichever position desired on the map. Does that mean it can be extended out?
No, the coral tree doesn't telescope. It's fixed. Its length is fixed. What you can do is before the start of the match, you can ask the referee to rotate the coral tree. So one end of the coral tree is going to be down on the mat. The other end is going to be in the coral tree holder. But the team can ask the referee to rotate it left or rotate it right. So maybe you want a loop pointing up or a loop pointing down, something like that.
Can you tell us more about the innovation project? Yes, I'm sure you're wondering. It's very vague. First, keeps these vague because they want to see what the children can do, what the students can do. It should just be however they feel that they can help ocean explorers, right? It's what the children feel it could be or how they could use a solution to something for that. It's very vague, and every year it's vague specifically for a reason to see what teams come up with. Your students will be able to jump on that mid-season check-in call and talk to our head innovation project judge as well, if they're going to have more questions. What does it mean by only 2 rubrics instead of 3? Sarah, you explained it really well. Do you want to go over it again?
Yeah, so historically we used to have 3 rubrics for the 3 of the 4 areas that you guys are judged on. And that's innovation project, robot design, and core values. They used to be 3 separate rubrics. Now there are only 2 rubrics, and each page is innovation project, and then the other page is robot design, and then core values is kind of like the peanut butter on top of the sandwich on both of those pages. And then the third page of the packet would be a feedback sheet. So it'll have feedback on all 3 areas for the teams, and, you know, the kudos area essentially as well. This is just to kind of reiterate that core values should be integrated into everything. And it's not like its own separate entity, but it is also a big thing. And it has its own award still.
Yeah, the awards aren't changing. We're not getting rid of core values. First, it's not getting rid of the core values award. They're just kind of trying to change it to be more authentic. We used to have a core values presentation, a core values activity. They found that was very rehearsed. They're trying to make it just more authentic, where they're coming around in the children's natural habitat of the event to see them.
Yeah.
When do teams need to be registered by? And does every registered team member need to be at the event? You probably, if you have an event that you really want to go to, you probably want to register next Wednesday when registration opens, because it could be that everybody else wants to be at that event as well. And no, every registered team member does not need to be at the event. But with that being said, I want to let them know that if you register for a qualifier and not every team member attends, the team members that don't attend will not be given a medal. If your team advances from a qualifier to a regional, all of those team members who weren't able to attend a qualifier are still welcome to go and attend the regional as part of a team. We know it's kind of a crazy time of year with soccer and flag football and other events. So hopefully your team members will be able to attend.
And I wanted to add to that, you can have team members join your team after the QT. If you're going to a regional, you can have them join. They can drop. We just ask that whoever's presently participating be on that roster on that day of.
It's unclear whether the robot can be manually picked up from one home area and placed in the other home area. Can you please clarify this? Mitch?
Oh,
That's
yours, Mitch.
actually, yes, that's very, very clear. The answer is no. You can't hand or pass anything from one home to the other home. The robot, anytime the robot's moving, it has to be moving on its own. The only exception to that is when the technicians interrupt the robot completely outside of home. Then that robot can be placed in either home to restart, and you lose a precision token.
Qualcomm funding is closed. That application ended a while ago. So next year, keep keep your eye out for your emails. It will come out again next year. Again, Qualcomm's very generous with supporting FIRST in all programs. Just to confirm, the link for the registration rounds will be sent out and go live on September 18th, correct?
At 9
Yes.
a.m.
At 9 a.m.
a.m.
For the innovation project, Sparks seems to be more focused on exploration of the ocean. Some of our team members have identified solutions for ocean pollution. Is this okay for an innovation project? As long as you can have them bring it back to the exploration. How is this pollution affecting exploration? How can their solution help with exploration? Just have them bring it back around. They can do it. They're creative, innovative students. And I love hearing how they bring those things around. So yeah, definitely you can go into pollution and just have them bring it back around to exploration of the ocean. Hi, Natasha. I'm super new. I am doing League Challenge with fifth graders. Oh, bless you. Is this tournament for us as well? Yes, it is. So you pay 180 for your team? Yes, you pay 180 for your team, and that'll cover your registration. And that is for us to pay our tournament host for all the trophies, medals, everything that we provide for the tournament host. So yes. Mission 7, Mitch, this is going to be for you, says, additional mission models are not allowed. What does that mean?
He's looking
Okay,
at the
I'm
rule book.
not, yeah, I'm looking, I have the rule book right here. I'm not quite understanding the question.
What was the question?
It says
says-
in Mission 7, it says, quote, additional mission models are not allowed. What does this mean?
I think if you're referring to the icon on several of the missions, that little Lego block with a slash through it, that means team equipment is not allowed to be touching the mission model at the end. So I want to be sure we're talking about the right thing, because mission models are what.
Aaron?
Go ahead, Kathy.
Oh, I was just saying Aaron Vogel is the one who was asking that question. So
sorry, I put mission 7. I meant rule 7. My bad.
Oh, rule 7.
That will help. 1 second.
That's okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for clarifying.
Rule 7, additional duplicate. Okay, what that means is when you arrive at the table, the whole field will be set up by me or by a referee. You can't bring your own mission models to the table. So that means, for example, you can't like swap out one coral tree for another coral tree, pre-made. There are rules saying you cannot break the dual lock, you cannot break the mission models, and you cannot swap out mission models. So the mission models on the table when you arrive are the mission models, and you can't bring your own with you to the table.
Leave the coral trees at the table.
Yes.
Leave.
And all those krills.
And the
Yes, that
krills.
was the next question. It says, can we ask the referees to point krill in a certain direction?
You can ask. The referee will probably say no, because the rule book says that's at the referee's discretion and not the team's discretion.
How many chances will we get to do our missions? And is score accumulated across all chances we get?
No, I didn't hit on that. You get 2 minutes, right?
2.5.
2 minutes, 30
Two and
seconds.
a half. You get 2.5 minutes at the table for each practice match and each tournament match. The practice match does not count. So if you totally bomb it, no biggie. But your tournament matches is best of 3. So it's the best scoring match that you have out of those 3 matches is the one that we rank you on.
And your second and third best score only come into play if there's a tie.
Yes.
We use those as tiebreakers.
Do we physically build an innovation project, or is it just the design and description? You do not need to build an innovation project. You do not, you may see teams, you will not be docked if you don't. You should have the kids have a design, a drawing or a model. Like, you don't have to build it. You just can have a drawing of it, and that is perfectly acceptable. There's nowhere it says that you have to build it. Sometimes the kids if they have time, like to, or if they advance from the qualifier, they might want to, but it's not a requirement. But you should definitely have a sketch of it to show the judges that you have put some extra thought into it, because it is also on the rubric. If you look at the rubric, it'll ask if there is a design and description. Is the innovation project an idea, presentation, or an activity, built, physical, device, or either? So it's definitely an idea and a presentation. Students are going to come up with a solution. They're going to find it. They're going to identify a problem. Then they're going to put the solution, and they're going to incorporate all of that into their presentation. Usually the kids have a lot of fun with this. So let them have fun, because it makes researching it and presenting it much more fun.
You can YouTube some of these presentations, and it really helped me with ideas of, you know, some of the kids use ukuleles, others use huge props. Others used a skit. So it's so cool to see. If you just YouTube it, you can find a whole bunch of presentations and get ideas.
Yeah, but you definitely want to do what your students are comfortable with. If your students are not comfortable doing a skit and they just would rather, you know, share and talk, that's okay. We've had students come in singing and dancing and doing a skit. We've had them, you know, to just standing there so nervous, holding up their board with their cue cards on the back. That's okay too. Whatever's going to get them through. And not every team member needs to speak. We understand, the judges understand. You might have a student who learns a little bit differently, is terrified to speak, but they're there. They want to be part of the team. They do not need to speak. They can be there. They can be supporting. They might have a part in your presentation. They don't have to answer questions if they aren't comfortable with that. We don't want to scare students off. We want to encourage everybody to participate. Any recommendations on how to set up the missions that connect across to the other team's table? Mission 10.
Yes. They published an update on September 3rd. So be sure, Sarah already told you, keep an eye on the updates, but they do explain how that's going to work. There are a couple of arrows on your mat, and your pillar could be, as much as a 1/4 inch north or south of where you think it should be, depending on the orientation with the other table. There's a little red triangle on the corner of the mat that you wouldn't notice until this update pointed it out. And the idea is that's where the rail should be crossing the over between the two tables. So it should be passing over the little red triangle on your side and the little red triangle on their side.
Mitch, can I interject for a second?
Yes.
What some teams I've heard doing that only have one table and don't have a way of extending that piece, they're only setting up the pillar. Take off the rail, take off the other pillar, just set up the one pillar so it's there, so they could practice going over to it, lifting it up, or doing whatever they need to do for that. All it does is it lifts up the rails and sends the sub over. So if you could just get practice of lifting it up, you'll be fine. So I know a few schools that have set it up that way.
Awesome. Can we add any rails at the launch area for starting reference during missions?
Yes,
Sounds
a lot
like
of teams build jigs. They have to be made of Lego. And you can have them in home and use that to line up the robot before you launch it. And just to be clear, you are allowed to be touching the jig as the robot launches. But of course, once the robot begins moving, you can't be touching the robot. Since the jig doesn't move, it's okay to touch it.
we have another new code.
The jig has to fit in that one launch area during inspection as well.
That's correct.
Okay, we have another new coach. When the robot interacts with a model, like the shark one, and moves an item, like the shark, into the side area, can that item be picked up and moved into the home area and or put onto the robot in the home area?
Right. So I think what you're calling the side area actually is part of home. Home, since you're a new coach, I'm going to get kind of basic here, so bear with me. But home is kind of the lowercase b area and the lowercase d area on the left and right edges of the table. So that black strip and the quarter circle on the left, the black strip and the quarter circle on the right. Once a mission model is completely inside home, any part of that home, the strip or the quarter circle, that's when the technicians can touch it. If it's only partly in that, the technicians can't touch it. And take a minute to look at Rule 17 and Rule 18 to understand what happens to mission models if the technician touches them before they're completely in home. That was a real quick and fast, maybe a little too telegraphed. I hope that answered the question.
No, actually, I asked the question and that was perfect. Can I ask a quick follow-up question, which is if the robot is in the B or the D, can it be moved inside that same B or D?
When the home is your area, it's called your protected area, and you can touch the robot, you can touch the attachments, you can touch mission models inside home, as long as they're completely inside home, yes.
Okay, but you can't move it from one home to the other home without losing one of your precision tokens, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
The next question, is there a way to inform judges of an emotional special needs student being included on the? Absolutely. When you can even let your tournament host just know as soon as they reach out to you, let them know your team number, and they'll probably just make a little mark next to it and talk to the judges ahead of time. Absolutely let them know, just so that they're aware, and they can help support you and your team. Also, if you have anybody that's coming to a tournament that might be in a wheelchair that you might need space seating in the arena, please let your tournament director know. Anything that they can do to help support your team with special needs or anything like that, please be sure to communicate with them. And if you would like to, you can CC us on that as well, so we're aware if you're not getting a response from it. But most of our tournament directors are amazing, and that's why we keep having them back year to year. All right, can we touch the items that we gather from the mat and bring them to the home area and load them on our robots for further missions? For example, the krill.
Okay, only the robot can pick things up off the field and bring them home. Once they are in home, the technician can touch them.
Will there be a core values award? Yes. There will be core values awards. There'll be project awards. There will be innovation project robot champion finalist. There will be mentor coach awards. There'll be a lot of awards. So yes, core values awards are still a thing. Okay, just to clarify, the coral tree, it can only be rotated. It can only be rotated is what I am taking away. Because if we push the coral tree all the way down onto the holder, the coral tree cannot be mounted on the coral tree support unless you pull it out just slightly enough to mount the loop on the support.
Yeah, that's right. So you do understand what's going on here. Your understanding is correct. To get the loop on the coral tree up on that support up top, you are going to have to pull it out a little. And if you pull it out too far, then of course it's going to fall out of the holder at the bottom. And you get the maximum points if if the loop is hanging above and if the bottom is still in the holder. So yeah, it's a finesse move. And when I was looking at that, thinking, wow, I can barely do that with my hands. I want to see a robot do that.
Okay, so there's next two questions are similar, so I'm going to just go. Can we have team members change after they've registered? Yes, as long as they are on your printed out registration form that you'll be printing to bring to your tournament from your dashboard. And then if some team members are absent, you will not be penalized as long as you got to have two. You got to have two students at a tournament. But you're not penalized if people are at events or get sick or whatever. You will not be penalized.
Kathy, to add on to that, on the
Yes.
dashboard, make sure if a student does leave, make sure to take them off the dashboard because you are only allowed 10 kids on that dashboard. So if you try to keep adding and adding, it won't allow you to add past 10 because teams max out at 10.
Yep. Up here, but just what Paul said, can you have team members with 11 people? No. One is an alternate if someone can't make it to the qualifier. Nope. 10 is the max you're going to be allowed to have on your roster. First has it in, it's in their registration. You will not be able to have 11. Sorry about that. If the robot or another object is partly in the home area and partly not, are we able to pick it up without penalty?
No. Take a good look at rules 17 and 18 in the rule book. They're going to describe, first of all, you can never touch anything that's not completely in home without penalty. But 17 and 18 will explain what happens if the robot leaves home carrying something and gets interrupted, if the robot is coming back from the field carrying something and gets interrupted, or if the robot just drops something on the field. The rules are a little different, or the handling is a little different for each of those. So there are ways of avoiding penalty, but only if you don't handle anything outside of home.
Is it illegal to plan to sacrifice a precision token to hand the robot to the other side?
Not at all, but you won't do it that way. What you'll do is launch the robot, let it get 1 inch outside of home, and then interrupt it and take it over to the other home. Very common. And you'll notice the first precision token costs you nothing. There are 6 tokens, and whether you have 6 left or 5 left, you get the same score.
Where is the definition of the scope of exploration for purposes of the innovation project? Should be in there, in your game manual, in your little, I don't have it. I did not get it. You should have it in your
Team meeting guide?
team meeting guide. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. If you can't find it, let us know. We'll make sure to put it in the coaches folder. Can robot starting location touch against the side rail in the home area before it starts? Yes.
No,
No.
because it has to be entirely within the launch area, and the launch area is just the quarter circle. So it can be touching the bottom wall, but not the side wall.
That's my bad. Our team just started a very new to challenge with 4th graders. Can you please advise us what can be our immediate focus?
All the things. Oh.
Yeah. Try to get them out to feel like they can accomplish 1 or 2 missions. They don't have to go to a tournament being able to accomplish all the missions. If they can do 1 or 2 missions, start doing some research on their project, and having fun. Keep them excited, engaged, and get them out talking to people. Go take them on some project field trips. Those are fun things to keep them engaged.
And remember, there is a coded mission that FIRST gives you for one of the missions that you can use with your team to help them feel successful on one mission. So look for that coded mission on the FIRST Inspires website.
Last year, there were tables available for each team, and some teams had elaborate setups, posters, bookmarks, etc. Are the teams judged on this? No, they're not. Some teams that have been around for a while just really like to showcase what their team is doing. It's not a requirement. You're not judged on it. We do have people coming around. Obviously, you noticed it. It is not a requirement. Sometimes it's kind of a fun team activity to do a poster, but it is not a requirement by any means. You guys have enough work to be doing. We don't want to add more. How long is the presentation time for robot design and innovation project? 5 minutes. Will there be enough time to present core values separately? Yeah, the judges, they're not in the judging room. Core values judging is separate, completely separate outside of the judging room. They will be like spies. They will You will not really know when they're around.
We're way more connected with technology now than we used to be.
Yeah. When selecting a QT event, do you also select the location too?
So on the drop-down menu that you'll see on the form, it will have the date and the location next to it. So it'll have a bunch of, say, November 2nd, Orcutt, November 2nd, in the code down. Then you'll see the November 3rd ones. So there'll be a list of 24 different events, and you'll pick the event so the date and the location together.
Yeah. How much table space do we have for innovation project setup? If we were to build a model setup, that's going to vary from event to event. We do not, I mean, some places have a table, like a 6-foot table. Some have a tiny little table. So if you have a model, you might want to bring in a table with you. That'll be part of your setup time, but that's also included in part of your presentation time. You can also ask your tournament director when they reach out to you, do we have a table for setup? And you can ask them how big that is. You have the right to ask these same questions to your tournament director. Our innovation project judging session was not conducted per policy last year. If we see this happening again, should the coach bring it up or the team? You should reach out to Paul, Sarah, and myself immediately, like after the event. But yeah, definitely let us know. I mean, it is something we do go over with the tournament directors, and we do go over it. We have several volunteer trainings that we do. If you do notice it, Elizabeth, please reach out to us and let us know so we can make sure to reach out to the tournament director. But you don't need to.
Kathy, yeah, I mean, it's kind of too late. Like once the judging is done, right? They can't redo it.
No.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't, because coaches are not allowed to talk in the judging room.
Well, they asked us if we had any questions we wanted to ask, which was part of the weirdness of the whole judging
That is
situation.
weird.
They asked
Yes.
the coaches?
Yes. And so I'm thinking they just asked me if I have questions, but they also warned me if I make any sound, I could
Yeah.
disqualify my team. So, and there were other things in there too. We don't need to get into all that, but
Elizabeth,
I
can you
don't wanna-
email me and let me know what tournament that was?
yes.
And that way
I'll
then
send
I
you a
can
message.
make sure I talk to the tournament host this weekend,
Yeah,
if
we
they're
address
coming
it.
back. I would
Yeah.
appreciate
right,
that.
thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Do students get docked if they read from their script or hold a script? Absolutely not. They're nervous. They're young kids. They haven't been on. I get nervous. I like to read from a script. No, they will not. They will not be docked. And we will make sure again to make sure the judges, the tournament directors know that that is not something. There are some old school judges, and we really are trying to work on that. It's okay if they read from a script.
Some of the best presentations I've seen have been read from
Yep.
a script.
A script, note cards, whatever's going to help them. It doesn't have to be memorized. It's hard. You're nervous. They don't know these people. They're going into a room with people they do not know. And I always tell my students, these people are not going to know if you mess up. You go in there, they don't know what your presentation is going to be. So remind them of that. If they mess up, it's okay. These judges are not going to know what your presentation should be about. Can the robot be moved across any home base after they return to either of the home base?
No. The only way the robot can move is under its own power. So you can't, or during an interruption. So if it arrives in the left home, then that's where it launches for its next venture out onto the field. You can't, if it arrives in the left home, no, it's not like the Clue game where there's a secret passageway to the conservatory. So no, the only way the robot can move is under its own power or by an interruption that costs you a precision token.
This was about updates. Sarah has a link in these slides that are going to be in the coach's Google Drive folder that you can check for updates. So it might be good to go over that at each meeting, at the start of your meeting each week. Like, hey, let's check and see if there's any updates. and just do that. So there is a link. The question, Mitch, is for you. It says, are there any other updates to the missions or anything that you can think of to help us out? Like last year when you gave us the hint about adding audience members to the pedestal.
Yeah, and then they changed the rule after we said that.
Yeah.
There's two things. One is we mentioned already the update about how to set up mission 10. So one coach was saying, well, we had it measured out how far the robot has to travel before it can raise that lever. And now that revision, that update says, well, it may or may not be exactly there. It's, when they set it up, it might be as much as a 1/4 inch up or down from that. So be flexible on that one. The other one that we've noticed is on the raise the mast. Yes, it works as advertised. You can raise the mast and it will lock in place so it won't come down again. But you also can push it farther than straight up, and it'll go all the way and slump over onto the sunken ship next door. That's, I guess, Paul, we still have to officially shake hands on this, but the interpretation is that that's okay because the mast is past the latch, and that's the scoring condition is you score once it's past the latch. Looks nice when it's standing up, but you still scores even if it tumbles down the other side.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In our building instructions, we didn't get directions for mission number 15 of the ship.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
It's there.
It's there.
On the online, there's all the building instructions if you didn't get a physical one. It's in that helpful links link on that first link. If you go down to challenge, it'll be down under there.
Is the innovation project presentation a PowerPoint presentation or a poster? It can be whatever your students, remember, these are students directed presentations. They're going to either do a poster. If they want to do a PowerPoint, they can. But remember also, not all venues have Wi-Fi. They do not have something for you to do a PowerPoint on. So whatever you decide to do, you're going to have to be self-funded. So if you go into a presentation with a laptop, that's fine. Just make sure that you've got, some way to present it without Wi-Fi, just in case, and make sure everything's fully charged. You will be getting a copy of these transcripts and videos. They will be in the Google Drive coaches folder. Can the robot be launched in the black area of the home as well?
No. If you look at that outline of the mat, it's that Tay, I think you posted this picture here. You'll see the dotted lines around each quarter circle, left launch area and right launch area, and the robot has to launch from completely inside the launch area, not completely inside home. I shouldn't say, that's a smaller footprint than all of home.
Are the solution for the ocean exploration problems technical solutions? Can be, again, it's a first, however you interpret it. It can be whatever you interpret, however your students want it to be. It can be technical, it can be non-technical. It's up to your students. Are we allowed to bring practice table to qualifiers? That depends on your tournament host. Some have areas, some don't. That would be a question to ask your qualifying tournament director.
But every event will have, every QT will have at least one table set up for practice. It's just shared among all the teams at the event.
Yep. We have a nonverbal team member in the innovation presentation. His team mentions it to the judges up front, and he always has nonverbal presentation responsibilities. I love that. That is awesome. Perfect. That's great. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing. That's great. Say if the base robot is launched from the home area with code number 1, and it comes back to the same home area after finishing a task, then a technician moves the robot from one place to another place within home area with the same code number 1. Is the robot The robot continues. Is this allowed?
Okay, this is a complicated one. I think what it comes down to is interruption means anytime the technician touches the robot. So it is possible to interrupt the robot even while it's in home, but that's not a penalty. Now, if you look at the definition of launch, it says when you activate the robot and send it out onto the field. So the prevailing interpretation is no, to answer your question. If the robot is programmed to go out on the field, come back home, the technicians touch it while it's in home, and then without launching it again, it returns to the field, no, that would be a violation of the rules. It's really technical, and frankly, the referee has to be paying ultra close attention to see that. But since you asked, that's the answer. The answer is no.
How high are the tables at competition? 24 inches, question mark?
We hope.
We hope.
Most of them sit on a standard card table or student desk, but
yeah, or sawhorses. But
Yeah.
again, that's the question you are welcome. Please feel free to ask your tournament host. If a team is younger or newer, are they held to a lower standard? Nope. They're all the same. They're all judged fair and equally. Can we sign up for a second QT in case we don't progress at the first event? No. We have other off-season events. You could sign up for one event and one event only. Unfortunately, we wish we were able to do that. We are working on a solution for that, though, for next year, hopefully, Mike. Adding another tier. New coach here. Do we have to preload code for all missions before the robot game starts?
Yes, 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 yes. Arun, the biggest problem we see at tournaments is the robot shows up at the table and the program isn't there, or the program's been corrupted. And we, just because the schedules are pretty tight, we can't give them time to go back to their pit and reprogram the robot. We try, and this is trying, this is not required of us, but we try. If a robot's not able to perform at its designated time, and if there is a vacant time slot later in the day, we can try to accommodate them. But yeah, you need to come to the table ready to roll. And what that means is you're going to be right before your match, you're going to be sitting sort of at the side of the game area. At that point, you want the robot turned on. You want to be sure the programs are there and ready to run. So when you get to the table, you have your couple of minutes of setup. But as soon as we say 3, 2, 1, Lego, you're ready to go. So yeah, you want to be fireman ready, as they say, when you get to the table.
And just to follow up with that, just so you know, you are not allowed to bring any type of device with you into the robot competition area. No tablets, no laptops, no cell phones, nothing. The robot is autonomous. You can't have Bluetooth turned on. On the Spike Prime, there's a little blue light that'll turn on. If the Bluetooth is on, you'll be asked to turn that off. So everything has to be done in your pit area before you even arrive at the robot competition area.
Awesome. Appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
We are not allowed. Only the kids are allowed in the rooms. No. At least one coach has to be in the judging room with the students. You can have up to 2 coaches only. No, it's not like family show and tell time for judging. You can practice them with the family so they can see it, but it has to be one coach in there. That's for youth protection. So there has to be at least one coach in the room. If a tournament director says no, you tell them that Kathy, Sarah, and Paul say it's required, and there has to be at least one coach and up to 2. The recording will be posted again in the Google Drive. First time coach here. Is this only a presentation, or do they also do a poster like in Explore? It's a presentation, and then it'll be a Q&A. You can bring a poster in to help your students. Sometimes it helps them to remind them. It shows what they were doing along the way. You do want to bring your show your code. You want to be able to show your robot code to the robot judges. So however you want to do that, if you want to put it on a poster, if you want to like have it on a laptop, however you want to be able to show them. You do not need to have a poster in your judging room if you know. Is cheering on your team from the side as they coach and parent and say you still have 30 seconds or it's okay to run it again over coaching? Are we expected to just clap and all that? It's better to, I've seen great teams that have students on the side timing it and reminding students. It shows that the students are doing the work. But yes, please clap and cheer them on. Just don't overcoach because trust your students. They know what they're doing. But maybe have a student that's their job. If they're not up there pushing the button for a code, have them be the timekeeper so they can remind the students. Some events have clocks and timers. They can help the students with that. If we want to participate as a judge at a specific QT, how do we volunteer?
So
Sarah?
I just updated the slides with the actual pictures and steps. And it's towards the end near volunteer opportunities, but it's in your first dashboard. You go to volunteer registration and then event volunteering, and it'll open up a new page, and that page will have some filters on the left, and it'll already have First Lego League Challenge selected for you, and then it'll list all the events on the right, and then it says volunteer, and click that and go through that form.
The only thing you cannot do as a coach, you cannot judge at a QT where your team is competing. That's the only thing. But we open it for all of you coaches. Come see. There's no magic potion happening behind the scenes. There's no voodoo. It's pretty open. We like to be really transparent. We do encourage you to come see how it all takes place. If a mission attempt failed and the robot messed up the mission position, can we use a precision token to move back the mission piece back to the original position?
No. Once the game starts, you can't touch anything on the field. Only the robot can.
Can we use the donation funds for the event registration? Donation funds that are on your dashboard? We do not have access to get those funds off your dashboard. If somebody gave you a check and you want to use those donation funds and you want to pay for your registration that way, you can. But we don't have any way to get donation funds off of your first dashboard from your first account. Sadly. Position of the raise the mast and the anglerfish missions, placement on the mat is very near.
Mhm.
When we are doing raise the mast, if you touch anglerfish, will that reduce points?
The way you phrase the question, no. What the referee is going to look for at the end of the match is the mast past that latch? And if the answer is yes, then you're going to get the raise the mast points. And they're going to ask, is the anglefish back inside its little lair in the shipwreck? And if the answer to that is yes, then you get the points for that. And if what you're saying is, well, the mast went too far and prevented the anglefish from getting in, now you've got a legitimate benefit of the doubt case. And what you ought to do is go to your referee and say, we did it, but the field prevented us from scoring the points we deserve. I would, and frankly, the way I'm going to train the referees is benefit of the doubt is really your friend. If you have a legitimate case and you can point out to the referee, hey, we did everything right, it's the game that was wrong, the referee ought to give you those points. Keep in mind, gracious professionalism counts a lot in this. You don't want all your team members screaming at the referee at once. You want one or two to go to the referee and say, here's what we observed, here's why we think we deserve those points. And if it's presented calmly and professionally and reasonably, and if the referee can say yes without it being unfair to the other teams at the event, the referee should say yes.
Can we start from either launch area?
Yes, you can.
Can part of the attachment extend outside of the home area while the robot is within the home area?
Upon launch, no. Upon return, yes. Upon return this year, they're allowing things to extend beyond the left and right walls. But upon launch, no, everything has to be completely within the launch area.
Since there are 3 tournament matches, are the mission resets for each match and the scores reset? Was thinking a couple different missions in each match to get the max point.
Yes. Every time you come to the table, you're not going to do 3 matches in a row, 2.5 minutes, pause, 2.5 minutes, pause, 2.5 minutes, pause. No, your matches are going to be spread out over the day. Everybody does a round 1, then everybody does a round 2, then everybody does a round 3. So, and it will be completely reset beforehand. Usually at the lunch break, if some models are looking sketchy, we try to fix them or replace them. So we're going to try to get you the best possible table at the start of each turn. And you're not required to do the same missions in each round. A lot of teams will maybe go for some of the easier ones in round 1, and if that goes well, go for some of the harder ones in round 2, and if that goes well, go for some of the really hard ones in round 3, because only your highest score counts. And so if round 3 fails miserably and you score nothing, well, you still have your round 1 and round 2 scores, whichever is higher, and that's what you're going to carry in. So yeah, it's a dynamic thing during the day where you decide which missions to do, but you will start at 0 and you will start with a fully reset table each time.
Can we bring a backup robot?
You can bring it to the tournament, but you can only bring 1 robot to the table. So if, again, what I was just saying, if you want to make 2 different robots that are kind of optimized for different missions, and you want to use 1 robot in round 1 and a different robot in round 2, that's perfectly fine. But there's no swapping out of robots during a match. Once you pass inspection, that robot and that equipment is all you have on the table for the next 2.5 minutes.
Mary, can you email me and let me know which tournament would not let you have coaches come into the judging rooms, just so I can make sure that they understand they can. I would appreciate that. Can we record our kids' presentation at the events to show the parents? No recording in the judging rooms. Again, you can record them practicing, or better yet, have the parents come and have the parents ask them questions on their presentation. But no, there's no recording in the judging rooms. We used to let them record the presentations, but then coaches started taking advantage of that, and they would pretend they weren't, and they would have their camera, held, and they would be recording it. They kind of took advantage of it. So now we just say no recording.
Besides, the coaches stand behind the team, and so you're recording the back of their heads instead of the front.
Yeah.
Do it during beforehand during practice.
But definitely have your students practice in front of other parents, and have the parents sit there and be the judges and ask them questions. It's a great way for parents to see what their kids are doing, and it's a great way for kids to get other questions. We have 2 teams, so 2 tables. Can't get the mission model that goes from one board to the other properly placed. So it sits on base without warping.
Yeah, I have not actually set up 2 tables side by side yet, so I imagine I will experience what you're experiencing. All we can say is look at that update that says be prepared for things to be a little off from what you practiced on. We're going to do the best we can, table by table, event by event, to get things nice and smooth and straight. And you will have that practice round to kind of test drive things. And again, if you think that you would have scored the points if not for something about the setup, then invoke benefit of the doubt. Ask the referee to award you the points, and here's why we think you should.
But that's the students asking, not the coaches.
Exactly. That's right. Calmly and professionally.
But also know that boards do have little imperfections from time to time, and this is an engineering challenge. So those little imperfections will not get you benefit of the doubt. It's something that is like the mission wasn't totally reset. That is huge. But if
Right.
it's just a little imperfection, it's not going to change things, and the engineering challenge takes over at that point.
But again, it's the student's responsibility to make sure that the missions are set prior to your match beginning
Yes.
in that short time that you have. And that also goes with the next question about the mats. Are the competition mats expected to be smooth without creases? Mats move.
Expected is the operative term there.
Yes.
Yes, it is reasonable for you to expect that, but look at it, take a step back. 24 teams at a tournament, a practice round and 3 game rounds. That's 96 games on either 4 or 6 tables. So these mats are going to get scuffed. They're going to get dirty. Things are going to be dragged across them. And we don't have the capacity to be changing everything out as often as we could. So yeah, by the end of the day, things might be in kind of rough shape, but that's frankly your problem. You have to design a robot robust enough that it can operate and succeed under less than absolutely perfect conditions. And I'm sorry, I mean, I wish I could use a mat and then tear it up and start over, but then we'd be there, you know, one tournament would run about, I don't know, 9 days.
This
Yeah.
year more than ever, Mitch, and I know we haven't even talked about this yet, but this year more than ever, the mats will be taped down at the 2 ends because of the way some of the missions are acting.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, the next 2 questions are yours, Mitch. It says, just want to clarify Kraken's leg setup, which didn't mention in the field setup, but the Kraken's leg should be above the gray axle. If this is correct, I think it's good to remind all the referees.
Yeah, that is something I actually have in the referee training already, is we want to be, I'm not sure that's a Kraken. I think that's like the unknown monster or something like that. But anyway, your point is very well taken, and I totally agree with it. We want those legs splayed enough so that they don't come into contact with that bar, and that everything releases cleanly. So that's already in the training I'm working up for the referees, yes.
Mitch, can you please clarify what you said about the attachments being allowed outside home during return? Does that mean you can touch the robot as long as the robot itself is completely in home, even if the attachment is sticking out onto the field?
No. Okay, so I think there's 3 things in that question. Actually, I need to go back to the Kraken thing first. The Kraken's legs. Now I'm seeing the picture. I'm sorry, I wasn't quite scrolled down far enough. So you think those red things are the Kraken's legs?
They should be over the gray bar. That's in the instructions. I put there a link.
Claudio, that instruction is a building instruction. So if you look at
those
field
are the ones
setup,
that used for reset.
No, that's different. If you look at rulebook or field setup video, it's obvious that Kraken leg is above that gray axle. But I think it's very easy to make a mistake when you reset.
Yeah, if you do not put it over the gray axle, then you cannot actually retrieve the treasure chest.
Yeah, that's a tricky mission. That is a tricky mission, Mitch, with the Kraken's legs having it, because they'll lock in at a certain point.
Okay. I haven't noticed that, but I haven't spent a lot of time on that.
Let us get back to you on that. Let us get back to you on that. We'll send out an email on that to everyone when we can look at the board a little bit, because there have been some missions that we need to look at a little bit closer.
Right. Okay. So sorry, I totally missed that question the first time through, but we'll get back to that. Okay, so now we're on to Lisa's question, and I think there's actually 3 things here. So 1, what I said about attachments being allowed outside home during return, they made an explicit rule change this year that when the robot and whatever it's carrying, including its attachments, come back home, it's all right for those attachments to be extending over the right wall or the left wall. So completely in home is redefined to mean completely in home and extending beyond the walls. So your question, does that mean you can touch the robot as long as the robot itself is completely in home, even if the attachment is sticking out onto the field? No, because what I said was sticking out over the wall, not sticking out back still over the field.
Okay. All right. And then we have a question. It's more of a comment, and I'm just going to go with this and I will answer you. I was shocked how different venues had different policies last year. I would really appreciate consistency. At the regionals, not the qualifiers, it sounds like. At the regionals, the judges asked the coaches questions, and then we got penalized for reading scripts, and some of the judges had timers and cut them off. Others didn't. The inconsistency really threw my students off. Well, congratulations, first of all, on making it to a regional. That's pretty cool. We are really working hard to have our venues be consistent. It's something we have been working on since we took over. But the judges, and I made comments, I did write down notes, June, about this. So when we have our meetings and our trainings, the judges should never, ever be talking to the coaches. They should not be talking to the coaches. And I'm sorry that that happened. And then getting penalized for reading your script, you should not be penalized. There's nothing on the rubric that says was a team reading from a script or not. So I apologize for that, because that's not, you should not be penalized. Some judges have timers and cut them off. Others didn't. They're supposed to be stopped. They have 5 minutes. It's a hard 5 minutes. Some judges just want to give them the benefit of the doubt and let them keep going. Then that makes the whole tournament run behind. Again, one of the best things I've seen teams do is they have one of the students with a timer, and they will share with their team. We have 2 minutes left. We have a minute left. And they share that with the team so that they don't get cut off. But that 5 minutes is a hard 5 minutes. So yeah, we will definitely bring that up with our volunteers. Because we do want consistency at our events. Do we know what dates we filled out for the tournaments we requested? You only going to get one choice. You get to pick. It's gonna have that drop down. As soon as you pay, hopefully you've got your payment in soon enough that you will get that tournament. If not, you're gonna have to go back in and
Well, we'll let you
re-register.
progress with the form.
What'll happen is, yeah, if there's nothing there, you won't get it. So you'll get your choice. If your payment isn't received within 3 or 4 days of you signing up for an event, you may go back into the queue and have to re-sign up again. So the faster you can get the payment in with your registration, the better it is.
Last year, part of the Qualcomm grant was able to be used for registration. Is this the case? Yes, there'll be a code. You will have to pay an additional, a little bit extra. The code for the Qualcomm grant that was sent out by Paul Sarah and myself through First California, we have a code for that. Yes.
If
I
the
will be
funds
sending.
are,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Sarah.
If the funds are sitting in your first dashboard right now, they're not going to be able to be used for your event registration. You can purchase things through the first dashboard with those funds, but once they're in there, we can't take them out. You have to spend them through there.
That was me that asked. I feel like last year you said you set it aside someplace special though, right?
We do. We have
Okay.
some, but that doesn't cover the whole registration.
Okay, so we
but-
can put the code in and it'll cover part of it. Okay,
Yep,
awesome.
yep.
Thank you.
And I'm going to send that out tomorrow, and they'll have a big note. Save this code until next week, because you're going to get it a week ahead of time. Just so you're not stressing. I don't want to forget and have it come out, the day you want to register, because that's not fair to you guys. So I'm going to send it out tomorrow, and then you'll have to save it in your favorites or whatever in your email for a week. But it'll say registration code in the subject. Yeah, Heather, we're super excited about this new registration system as well. Being able to, it saves us a lot of work, and it should be easier for you all to be able to register and know right away.
One other thing I want to mention about the registration system, and I think it says it on there, I'm going to make sure. But when you give us the first coach one's email address, it must be the same email as they use for their first dashboard. Otherwise, it will create a problem with the hub. So please make sure it matches the email from the dashboard.
Maybe we can edit the form to put that in
Yeah.
there
I thought we put it on there, but I'm going to check.
in like big red letters.
And make sure maybe in the email next week when you send
Yes.
out the registration code.
That too.
All right.
Well,
it's already
thank you all so much.
8:30.
We want to give you back your evening. This has been kind of a long meeting, but I feel like we got a lot of good questions. We're super excited for this season.
If anything comes up in between now and next meeting, feel free to email us. We'll get to you as soon as we can. And we look forward to seeing you at some of these tournaments. Paul, Kathy, Mitch, and myself, and some of the other head judges will be at these events. So you might be lucky and see one of us in person. And don't be afraid to say hi.
No,
we're always
absolutely
you know,
not.
Yeah.
willing to say hello.
Yeah. Yeah, we're really
wait to
excited.
see
Thank
ya.
you all.
Can't wait to
Thank
see you
you.
at the events.
Yep. Have a great
Thanks, Mom.
evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you guys. Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think